Alrighty, a little bit of a different lesson here today. This activity requires no prerequisite skills. This is a bit of a discussion that I've had with students who are in elementary school, with students who are in high school, whether in grade 9 or grade 12. I've had with students who are in university or college, and they seem to have benefited from it, at least they've told me so. So we're going to have a bit of a discussion here. What we can do when we're stumped, how powerful it is to be stumped, to search for ways to find ourselves stumped, and to be able to learn to be comfortable in that state. So a little bit of background knowledge right here. Let's talk about and compare levels of difficulty when approaching certain problems, and compare that to how much we can learn, the potential for learning, if you will. Now the whole point here is that the harder you have to work for something, whether you are in a math classroom, in another classroom, whether you're in a brand new job, whether you're learning a sport, the harder you work for something, the more you're going to understand it afterwards. If you work really hard to learn a particular skill, if you work really hard in order to approach a certain problem, you'll remember it longer, you'll understand it more thoroughly. So if that's true, let's look at some different levels of understanding. The very basic level of understanding comes from watching somebody do something, whether that's in a sport, you're watching somebody take a slap shot, whether that's in a math classroom, you're watching a teacher or a peer solve a math problem. It takes a little bit of understanding in order to watch somebody solve a problem, but just because you can follow somebody's steps doesn't mean you can solve that problem on your own, right? I think that's pretty safe to say. I think there's nothing jarring right there, and the whole idea there is that has a low level of difficulty and a low potential for learning, right? It can be pretty difficult to learn something just by watching a teacher. I imagine you've been through the experience before where you followed a teacher going through a problem. They've said, now you try it. Then you find yourself at the board or in your booklet and you say, wow, I'm stumped. I have no idea how to solve this, even though I thought I understood it when I watched the teacher. You did understand it. You just understood it at a level for watching somebody else do it rather than doing it yourself. So if you can follow along with somebody else doing it, then the next level of understanding, or the next challenging level, doesn't actually come from solving it on your own. It comes from solving in a group. Solving with a group. And the whole idea right here is, yes, it's more challenging to solve something with a group than just to watch somebody solve it. And you can learn far more from solving something in a group than just watching somebody solve it. It is easier to solve something when you're in a group rather than on your own, because when you're in a group, you can at least have discussions with others. Hey, I'm not sure what to do. Hey, I don't remember how to approach a problem like this. Hey, I'm stuck, right? And then you can bounce ideas off of each other. Sometimes you can even look around. You can see what other groups are doing, right? If we take a step back and look at the larger group there, looking at the class, you can see what others are doing. The point is, you can learn far more from solving something as a group than just from watching somebody go through a practice problem on your own. That's why teachers often will let you sit there trying to solve something as a group rather than just showing you, because once you make your way through it, you're going to understand it way better than if you just saw somebody do it on their own. Now, even more challenging, obviously, than solving in a group, as we just discussed, is solving alone, right? So if you're solving a problem on your own, then you're not relying on anybody else's understanding. You're just relying on your understanding, your ability to get yourself unstuck. So if you can solve in a group, that does not necessarily mean you can solve it alone. But if you can solve something alone, if you can learn to do a skill on your own, my goodness, you'll be able to understand it way better than if you had attained that skill just from watching or just from solving in a group. All right, so we're increasing the difficulty and we're increasing the potential for learning as we work our way through here. Now, more challenging than solving alone is being able to explain your way through. Or there's a reason why your math problem sets, when you get further along the problem set, the questions often say, hey, explain how you approach a problem like this. Explain how you know what you know, because it's harder to explain something, right? I imagine you've been through something where you've solved a problem on your own. A friend has turned to you and said, hey, how did you solve it? And you say, you know what? I don't know. I just knew it. I just did it. That's because it's easier to solve something on your own than to explain it. So if you can find opportunities to try and explain things, then yes, it's harder than just solving something on your own, but there is also a much greater potential for learning. You'll be able to understand it more thoroughly. You'll be able to remember it for longer if you can explain it. And even further than that, the most advanced problem that you can solve is actually teaching something. right? Taking somebody who doesn't know a skill and saying, hey, look, I'm going to break it down all to the basic levels, and I'm going to explain every single little piece of this, why we're making each decision, how we make each decision. That is the hardest, right? Just because you can watch somebody do something doesn't mean you're anywhere close from being able to teach somebody to do something. But if you can manage to find opportunities to teach somebody these skills or to explain it as if you're teaching it, that has by far the greatest potential for learning, right? So if we do take this idea, right, the harder you work for something, the more understanding you can gain from it. Then we can ask ourselves, okay, what is it that makes us work harder at something? And that, folks, is being stumped, right? So if you're sitting there being stumped, it's really, really valuable. It sounds scary. It sounds uncomfortable. What it really does is it helps you learn. It allows you to learn. If you can get comfortable being stuck, then you can get comfortable allowing yourself to take on challenges that are difficult. You can get comfortable being stuck if you learn how to get yourself unstuck. So what I want you to do right here is I want you to take a look just in this first little box. When I am stumped, I have the tools to continue my progress. I can. What are the different things you can do to get yourself unstumped? I encourage you, pause the video, get a few ideas down, unpause, and compare ideas here. So I had this conversation with my grade 11 students very recently. The ideas they came up with, they said, well, you can attend a math help session if your school offers something like that in your own time. That's at lunch or after school or something like that. Being able to attend a session, ask people for help, wow, that can be really helpful. Which leads us into our second idea. Yeah, we can ask for help. When we ask people for help, we can ask so many different people, right? We can ask our friends. That's probably easiest, although they might not know the answer. We can ask our teachers. Right? Now, we might be at home when we're getting stumped, so it might take another, 12 hours to get a little bit unstuck. But if you're able to ask your teacher, wow, that can really provide some great opportunities for learning. Or you can ask, if you're lucky enough to have family members who might understand the material, you can ask your family members. You could also ask online communities. You could also ask AI, right? You can just reach out for help in any way, shape, or form. If you're going through my class, then you can use QR codes from your booklets when you're stumped, right? Because that can bring you to some videos. They can explain things, which brings us to our next idea. You can just use YouTube, right? Just being able to search, hey, how do I do this? On YouTube, there are hundreds of videos for so many different levels of whatever skill you're looking to learn. Because of the world we live in today, all that information can be at your fingertips. You just have to practice your wording so that you can reach out and ask for help from the internet. Good, so now we've covered so many different ways of asking for help. Now I want you to consider when you ask for help, how do you benefit? I encourage you, pause the video, get some ideas down on your page, unpause, and let's compare. Now, the main ideas here are when you ask for help, you benefit because it gives you an opportunity to build your understanding, right? Now, additionally to that, what it does, slowly, really carefully, is asking for help time and time again. What it does is it builds confidence. It gets you through that idea, hey, look, I can ask for help and that's okay. I can ask for help and then I can learn something and then I benefit from it. Wow, that's great. It actually feels good to ask for help. You might have a lot of fears. Your brain can really teach you to avoid asking for help. Oh no, what that does is it avoids you handling challenging problems. We're not looking to avoid challenging problems. We're looking to learn as much as we can so we can build our understanding, we can build our confidence. And really, when you're asking for help, all of this, what it's really doing is it's allowing you to get unstuck, getting you unstumped so that you can handle your way forward, so that you can handle more challenging problems, right? Now, when you're asking for help from your peers, what they benefit by, oh, well, hang on, let's go take a look at our previous graph down here. When you ask for help from your peers, you're giving them opportunities to explain and to teach. Well, if they're getting opportunities to explain and teach, then they're actually getting a way higher potential for understanding than just from solving their own practice problems, right? So when you're asking your peers, when you're asking people around you for help, they also benefit from that, right? They find themselves there being able to get a tougher challenge. And if they get a tougher challenge, then they can get more opportunities for learning. That can help them learn faster and learn deeper. And lastly, when you ask for help in class, when you ask a teacher to clarify something, when you ask peers to clarify what they wrote down, why they wrote it down, how they knew what to do, they benefit just as much as you benefit, right? What they see is they see somebody setting an example and showing them, hey, look, it's okay to ask for help. You actually allow your peers an opportunity to build confidence just from seeing somebody else in their vicinity asking for help. Further than that, they obviously benefit from hearing the explanation, because every single time, almost every single time, you raise your hand and you ask a question, then 1 in 5 other people in the classroom were also wondering the same thing. They were just not brave enough to raise their hand and ask. So what you can do just from raising your hand and asking is you can get that communication, that healthy communication going on between a teacher and between the class, so that there can be a discussion for learning rather than just watching and waiting and feeling a little bit confused. So they benefit from getting themselves unstuck as well as you do. So what I want you to do, I want you to consider that your brain is going to naturally try and avoid getting stuck at all, right? Often by not trying something challenging. It learns that risk aversion, right? That I'm going to try and do anything I can to avoid any risk. It learns that by avoiding challenges and saying, well, at least I didn't get stuck, right? I imagine your brain has told you that at one point, but what that actually accidentally is doing is it avoids struggle, right? It accidentally avoids challenging problems. It avoids learning. So don't let it get there. I want you to get in the way. Try and find different ways you can challenge yourself so that you can struggle and learn a little bit more effectively. Embrace, try and search for those opportunities to get stuck, because you have the tools to get yourself unstuck. Fantastic. Nice work.